I'm going to leave editing to the seasoned hands at CSU. So, Hi, welcome. This is, I'm Patti Napolitano, owner and operator of Wellness Cleveland, and probably your professor this semester. And this is my new dear friend, Janet Nolan, who I had to interrupt her because we're just already having such wonderful conversations. New friend, Janet, I just met you a few weeks ago, and I immediately was like, oh, this is so helpful. This is so helpful in just like clearing my mind of the many funding, granting things I have going on in a framework of really how to even understand it or how to come up with a structured plan.
I know that it can be very overwhelming.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to pass on what I know, if it would be helpful.
So I heard the phrase panhandle, which I heard for the first time regarding this region last week. People from West Virginia and Wheeling Health Right came out to speak to our Rotary about their services through the panhandle. And I went, oh, West Virginia has one of those too.
Yes.
So this is the part of it that comes up against Maryland, Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania. Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Pennsylvania, Ohio, and then Virginia's south of you?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah. So you have been, tell us a little bit about your work experience. You were just starting to tell me about some of the things that you did across the panhandle.
I started in my 20s as first I started out as a volunteer with the American Cancer Society. And I did such a good job that the director was retiring, and she was like, I think you should apply for this job.
Yeah,
that you would be very good.
So many nonprofit careers start this way.
Absolutely. And fundraising is not for everyone.
Yeah.
And when you're given a monetary goal each year, that can be very scary.
Mm-hmm.
But if you know your market and you believe in your product, you will go far.
Yeah.
Because if you don't believe in what you're doing, then the people you're asking for money from are not going to believe.
Yeah.
So I worked for the American Cancer Society for, I think it was 8 years. And I serviced the Northern Panhandle of West Virginia and did event planning and door-to-door solicitations.
Oh my goodness.
And
time's gone by.
Yes.
Are we allowed to do those?
I'm not sure. I think we had to get a permit.
Yeah.
And mail solicitations.
Mm-hmm.
So we also did educational events. So we did our fundraising to help pay for the educational events. And that was throughout the Northern Panhandle of West Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
So up through the Hancock County area, down through Wetzel Tyler area.
So you had gone from volunteer to executive director.
Yes.
Fund development.
Yes.
Grant writing.
No grant writing. That's the only thing that's not in my suitcase.
So what is fund development?
Fund development as far as what I'm doing or helping with now.
So how did you get into community
fund
work?
I worked after the American Cancer Society. I got a job at Wheeling Jesuit University and worked in the advancement office for 23 years, also as a fundraiser. And that was working with special groups and
there were a lot of people
sending
from
out
Holy Name High
solicitations.
School in Parma, Ohio, who went to Wheeling Jesuit. So your planning worked.
Yeah,
I certainly knew of you.
It was a very good experience.
Yeah.
And then from there, I started working here. So in August, it'll be 5 years for me here.
Okay.
And my title is Director of Stewardship and Office Manager. And I also coordinate and help teach those coming into the Candid Nonprofit Resource Center.
Mm-hmm. And that was how I met you, as I came in 2 weeks ago to Candid.
Yes. The Community Foundation maintains a multitude of funds. And through those funds, we grant back out into the community to nonprofit organizations and for scholarships.
Mm-hmm.
So depending on what funds are here and granting out. I think there's 8 grants that individuals, no, I shouldn't say individuals, organizations. The organizations have to be a 501c3 nonprofit.
Right.
So on our website at cfov.org, you can go and check out and see what we have available under grant seekers.
Yeah. So that's grant seekers who are 501c3s,
Yes.
which people can start on their own.
They can.
Through like their Secretary of State or.
And actually through the Candid Resource Center, there is a wealth of information. And one of the things is how to start a 501c3.
Yeah. So someone who has a passion, has a cause they believe in, knows their market, and they want to get out and get working, can come here or come to one of their regional foundation centers and receive help from someone like
for
you.
Research.
For
Yes.
research.
Yes.
Yeah, on how to become
Excuse me.
501c3. And I think.
Well, not necessarily on, which actually anyone can go to Candid,
On
the Candid website. Yes.
Yeah, so they can
And
access that.
get a little bit
remotely.
of guidance that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have some things in my coursework, in our
Okay.
coursework about starting your own, but many of my students already have one.
Oh, nice.
And they were the people who really taught me, like, no, you can just do this thing. You don't have to have the money up front, or
Nice.
you just have to have like some people who will be on your board of directors.
Yes, our board of directors are all volunteers.
Right.
So they're professionals just throughout the community.
So there's an event March 21st that you've invited me back to, which
Yes.
is another front door in.
It's an open house.
Yeah.
From, I'm thinking 9 to 11. I don't have the sheet
Sure.
in front of me. But yes, anyone who wants to come in and, for your students who are nonprofits, they can come in and we'll do a demonstration on the Foundation Resource Center directory.
Mhm.
And I will have a bunch of information on samples that they can find on the Candid site.
Right.
There are letters of introduction. There are sample like project descriptions. There are sample grants, sample cover letters,
Yeah.
sample
And-
budgets.
I want to point out that all of these things are Googleable,
Yes.
and that I have been teaching a course in community organizing for 10 years at the graduate level. And I came in here and you like knocked my socks off in under 5 minutes.
Oh.
So the unlabeled resource that we have at the Foundation Center is help.
Correct.
And someone who really knows the tapestry of services in your area, and you know the tapestry that and all of the founding members and the consolidations that have gone on in this region over the last 30 years.
Well, a lot of, like I said, fundraising is not necessarily for anyone, or everyone. But once you kind of learn, I don't want to say the rules,
Right.
but, it's all about making relationships, building relationships.
Yeah.
When you're asking for money, get to know someone. It's helpful if you introduce yourself and get to know a foundation first. One of the things that's nice about the getting profiles from the foundation directory is that on each profile of the foundation that you would ask for money from, there's a who's who section,
Mhm.
and the names of the trustees or board members are there. So it's very possible that the individual who's going to be asking them might know someone that's there. So that's an inroad then, as you're going to be asking for money.
Right. So most of what I've learned about fund development and advancement and program development, I have learned from volunteering on a board.
Yes, I looked at it as a baptism by fire.
That's the kind I was on too. Yes.
So you just jump in, feet first, and
And I think, so I just took a grant development course that was an online faculty educational course within Cleveland State for faculty who might want to work on different grants or research and write for like National Endowment of the Humanities or NIH grants. And they did a really great job of describing, they had this great infographic of a ring and the reflection and the different parts of your grant, and the fact that you're taking pieces and parts of your very unique idea, and that's layered within the complexity of your own community, and you're breaking it down into these like Lego pieces, and that every single person's proposal is going to look like that. And here's what you see, and then the reflection of it on the glass is what your funder sees.
That's a neat way to look at that.
So it's, to me, it helped me understand, like, it's not the way that you describe it almost sounds like, well, it's who you know, but it's really not who you know. It's the process is formally or informally, like much before your grant deadlines are hit.
Oh,
You want to know who is on your board of trustees and who is the person that you want to have coffee with, because these conversations happen over coffee to see, is this a fit or is this not a fit? Because if I'm on this committee that's going to be deciding who we're awarding grants to, I might have a stack of 50 grants and I can only pick 2, but I might know where 10 of those really should be going. So it's so helpful to have that conversation 8 months ahead of time before the proposal is sitting on their desk.
yeah, we have a grant officer that her specialty is the grant area. And then we have another officer whose program, her specialty are scholarships. So she works with volunteer scholarship committee members. So some of the funds, the applications go through the committees, and then some of the funds, they have their own committees. So it just depends on the fund.
Right. So we were going to talk, I have this is twofold. I want to talk about the nitty gritty, the parts of your job. And I also want to talk about mentorship and intersectionality, and we would call it maybe your positionality, just the lens that has formed to help you view the world and kind of understand, like you said, this is not for everyone. And so it takes a special kind of, I think, breadth of experiences to get us all to our unique passion and our unique purpose. Certainly part of yours is generativity and, encouraging that light within others. So I'm very interested who has nurtured that light in you.
I want to say my mother. My father was a banker, and my mother didn't work most of her career. But my father had a stroke in the early 50s. So it was after that she decided she would go back to work.
Oh.
And she worked at High Valley Medical Center in the nurses' residence. And she loved being a mentor for the girls that they lived there. And then they were nursing students.
Oh, wow.
She also...
So she had many years of experience of work. It was not paid labor, but she had raised a family.
Yes.
And then gone on to use those skills to help these young women become women.
Yes. But she also volunteered for the Wheeling Symphony Auxiliary, the Women's Club of Wheeling. So she was involved, had her hands in many different organizations.
She was navigating a lot.
And she was the type of individual that would walk into a room and would come out with everyone's names. She knew or would find out who someone was. So I think that kind of rubbed off on me. But yeah, she prompted me to volunteer for the American Cancer Society.
Now, had you been working before that?
Yes, I worked for Mercantile Bank in Moundsville for 6 years.
So you thought you would follow Dad's footsteps?
Yes,
And decided no bueno.
yes.
So you were working and volunteering at the
Yes.
same time? And then I would say, what made you think you were going to be a banker? But I think, would you say it was your father?
My father, yeah.
Yeah. And did you
And
go
he
to
knew
school?
someone down there.
Yeah.
And I don't think I was ready for school. I started, and then I think I went for 1 year, and then I wasn't ready. I got married, and things were delayed. So when I worked at Willing Jesuit, went through their Bachelor of Organizational Leadership Development Program. So I finished my schooling at a later date.
And
so
did
my
you-
daughter and I were going to school at the same time.
Oh, how cool.
Yeah.
So were you, did you find that just by working there and seeing what people were doing? Did you do
Yes.
some vocational testing to find
Nope.
that?
No,
A
that
bachelor's in
program, Organizational Leadership Development.
Okay.
And one of the things that, part of that was that we had to research and present a project. So there are probably other schools that have something similar to this, where like writing a grant and submitting a grant was one of the things that.
Oh yeah, I was doing that in my undergraduate social work program. I had programs funded before I graduated. It was so strange to me that other social workers had not. I was like, how do you tie like that golden thread of funding and strategic planning, and like your job came out of all of these things?
Well, some of the individuals who have the nonprofits, I think very easily could contact some of the schools to see if they have a program like this, not to attend, but to offer possible grant scenarios for the students. So then those individuals would do the work for the nonprofit.
Oh, yeah. It's too late. My students know I can't add any more assignments this semester, but there's always next year.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and not just as a thought exercise, but you can actually get things funded.
Yes.
While you're still in school.
And as the coordinator for the Foundation Center directory, I appreciate having the background that I do, because a lot of the nonprofits, individuals go in and out in a quick manner sometimes. So new people coming in maybe haven't had the background of being a fundraiser. So I'm able to sit and get to know individuals while they're working in the directory, and we talk about the kind of projects that they do, the type of funding options that they do. So I'm able to offer a little bit of my past experience for individuals, so that I like being able to do that.
We came up with some long lists, you and I, that I'm still sorting through. This goes here, this goes there.
Yeah.
So I'm very happy for your background as well.
I have a friend who has taken on grant writing for the hospital that she works for, and that was totally new for her. So I'm happy to be able to assist individuals. Like if I know what projects you're working on, when I'm in the foundation directory, then I'm able to do some research and then send it to you. So I send her prospects occasionally when I'm in there working for someone else. And that's something that we offer free of charge.
Yeah.
So I like when she tells me, oh, I just got 150,000 from this, or I just got 30,000 from this. So it's nice to.
I would love to tell you that.
Yeah.
About some of the projects.
Yeah,
I got
absolutely.
going. Yeah. So maybe Maybe
Yeah.
on week 3, I'll get
Yeah.
some funds. So you did homework,
I did homework.
which I love because I don't have to have other screens up or anything.
Yes,
Would you like to
yes.
go over some of the fund types that the Community Foundation of the Ohio Valley oversees?
The Community Foundation oversees agency funds, which are funds that nonprofit agencies create to then help them maintain stability.
Right.
They also,
So an agency fund could be something like $75,000 in the bank in case the heater breaks.
correct.
So that's something I, as a 501c3 nonprofit, could ask you to hold and manage for me.
Yes.
Okay.
So they use it for, special purposes or general purposes.
Yeah.
And then we also have nonprofits that have their endowments with us.
Mm-hmm.
So then that helps with the longevity of their organizations, where they donate into their fund, and then whenever it comes time that they need to pool money, like a certain percentage of the interest then goes back to them while the endowment continues to build.
Right.
And-
And so that would be helpful for an organization because then you don't have the liability of managing the money.
Yes, absolutely.
And then also there's some expertise so agencies, are they paying you to manage endowment or agency funds?
As a whole, any of the funds, there's a minute percentage that, yes.
Yeah, and that comes out of the dividends.
Yes,
whatever it's accruing.
Yes, we all the funds are no, I shouldn't say all the funds, but the majority of the funds are invested. And then as the main pool grows, then so does the fund, because so based on the market and.
This is so cool. I would not have guessed that was a part of the role.
Donor advised funds, that's where someone would create a fund and then say, I would like to grant out, there are fund agreements created for all these funds. So they might say, I would like to create a fund with this amount of money going out annually to the Barnesville Depot, or, so it's individuals who have some money that they would like to do good with, but they don't want to mess with it.
Yeah.
So then they give it, open a fund here, and then we're able to manage that for them. And then donor advised funds, are funds that people open, and each year they tell us who to grant out to.
So these are family foundations.
Yes. My sister-in-law tragically was killed a couple of years ago, and my brother and his family opened a fund here. So every year they grant out to animal welfare groups and religious organizations, and so they can choose what organizations that they want to grant to, as long as they're a 501c3. So that's just the main, criteria. Scholarship funds, individuals create, and then they work with the individual who's opening the fund for them on the criteria and, how it will be awarded.
How often are scholarship funds similar to that donor designated fund? It seems like people would want a scholarship to benefit Ohio State students or whatever. Like that's something that I see people in their charitable giving.
Then Ohio State students would apply on our website.
Mm-hmm.
There's again, at cfov.org, students would go to, there's a student section.
Yeah.
And then it also, I want to say there were 80 some scholarships.
Yeah.
As I was doing my research, I know that we have a lot, but I'm thinking
Sure.
It was over 80 scholarships. So they would have to just kind of go down through and see what they would qualify for.
Yeah, and that's not necessarily just college scholarships. Those can be
Oh, no,
scholarships
yes.
to other kind of education.
Well, I think that there are mainly, field of interest or high school or college. So there's.
Mhm. I know Barnesville Area Education Foundation likes to fund scholarships specifically in agricultural sciences. I presume there's a lot of those types of scholarships around here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Field of interest funds, that is related maybe to a specific field or there are different ones like Governor Borman statue fund that they've raised money for a statue that's down in front of the old First Capitol building.
Mhm.
And I think there's the Dean Martin Statue Fund.
Oh,
So
nice.
as organizations or communities are working on things, then they're able to create the Field of Interest Fund.
Yeah. So a
So-
capital campaign can be housed through here so that this is something an executive director of a small nonprofit does not have to manage. They can say, can we instead set it up through here for this Field of Interest Fund for organ restoration or
for a specific project.
right. What about, so is a Field of Interest Fund, my students who are in my current class now who say like, oh, well, I've been working in housing in this region, but now the more I ask around and talk around, I'm realizing there's a gap in elderly housing services. Is that a Field of Interest Fund, like programs that are funding elderly housing?
Yes.
Okay.
So there are specific areas you can choose the area. You're creating the fund and choose the area, like elderly or children or animal welfare or.
Right, and you can search in the database by field of interest as well as state, other population, funder.
In the foundation director, yes.
Mhm.
It's really nice when you come in, if you want to come in, you're able kind of have your projects in mind because you don't want to be too broad.
Mhm.
Because when you are, then you're going to have thousands of records to have to look through. So it's better to kind of start out smaller and build upon it. But yes, you're able to put in the field of interest, and you're able to put in the area, and you're able to put in the population that you want to serve. And if you want to look at particular organizations that are funders from Ohio, you can put in Ohio in that particular field. Or if you want to look at like organizations to yours, you could put in that organization and see who all of their funders are.
Mhm.
And then that might be a good inroad for you. If they're supporting them, then they might support you too.
Yeah. They got
So-
money to spend, and here we are in need of money. What a
Absolutely.
great match.
There are a lot of foundations that have money. Like we're just one organization that maintains funds.
Mhm.
West Banco has funds. Security National has funds. So, if you know individuals who work at either of those places and it's good to even just call and let someone know who you are and, just wanted to see if you may have a funder that would be interested in our project, so it doesn't hurt to call and ask questions.
Mhm. I feel like I have so many irons in the fire all the time, and it's okay that they're not coming to fruition because I could never manage all of it at once. But it's still very helpful
Yeah.
because this is the tapestry of services in our area. It's never not helpful to know more people who are doing different things.
Absolutely.
Networking is not optional, really.
Yeah.
Especially not in community work. That's the whole point of it, is to be
Yeah.
networking.
We're all here for the same reason. We want to make the world a better place. We want to make our communities a better place.
Yeah.
So,
And what I would call fund development, because I've been on many fund development committees, I have found that it's the same problem with AA. They call it the 800-pound telephone. That really impossible step is just making that phone call. But I think it's made easier because the more conversations I have, the more I realize it's not a competitive market. It's about finding goodness of fit, and goodness of fit can really only be found through, you got to get rubber to the road and work on it and really understand where the money is and who is very motivated to meet the problem. Because any problem that we want to help with, somebody has created a donor fund, particularly have in their heart.
Yes. And those donor funds want to grant their money out.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a matter of finding out if you're the right fit for them.
Right.
And
you were just talking about 3 unrestricted funds through West Banco, National Security National.
They have funds.
And then community.
They maintain funds like we maintain funds.
Right. And so those are 3 people who have an unrestricted pot of funds.
I don't know if necessarily if they're.
Oh, okay. But those are.
The majority of our funds are restricted.
Right.
But we do have an unrestricted fund. My mind's blank.
That's okay. Well, the beauty of unrestricted funds is that you can be really responsive to current crises and current community needs.
Absolutely. Which we just granted out, I think it was $99,000 out to nonprofits for out of our field of interest funds and the unrestricted fund.
Mm-hmm.
So, we have a women's giving circle. That is something that other people should piggyback on.
Mm-hmm.
The women's giving circle, there's a specific ask each year for individuals. So we also have a men's group as well. So you may think, I only have $500. My gift is not going to make a difference. But when you're putting that with 100 other women,
mm-hmm.
That makes a big impact.
Right.
So the men also have a similar giving group. And the women just had their award ceremony today and gave out over $50,000 to area nonprofits. And they specifically fund programs for women and girls in the Ohio Valley.
That's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool. So
many hands make light work. Right?
Yes. So that's a way to increase and gain money that you need, but it's not being too overwhelming and taxing on individuals.
Mm-hmm.
Years ago, I used to do special donor dinners, and each person was asked to either donate or raise $10,000. So we used to make a lot of money because they would then get their 10 friends to give $1,000, or it was just an easier way that wasn't too overwhelming for them to raise money. And then we had a dinner that lifted those individuals up. And
that's a little above and beyond the $20 I've paid for raffle tickets.
Yes.
For the kids of people who bought raffle tickets when I was in high
Yes,
school.
it was a VIP dinner.
Yeah.
And that was always a successful event. I think that not a whole lot of organizations necessarily. I used to do balls and golf tournaments and all kinds of events. And I think those are there's still golf tournaments, but it's harder when a nonprofit doesn't necessarily have the manpower to do those types of events.
Mm-hmm.
They would need a lot of volunteers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Golf tournaments.
Yes.
I'm a veteran of a golf tournament committee.
Yes.
It's a lot of hours.
It is a lot of hours. It's a lot of fun,
It is a lot of fun.
but a lot of hours. Yes, absolutely.
If you like hot dogs, have I got the job for you?
Oh, nice.
Can you talk some about, I've heard a lot about the Belmont County Enrichment Fund and the Community Impact Funds. And could you talk some about those two in particular?
Well, the Belmont County Enrichment Fund, it's past their grant cycle period, but next year.
We got one in.
Oh, good.
We got one in before
Okay.
the beginning of.
Okay,
February.
that was created by just a group of local business individuals, and they decided they wanted to do something for their community.
Mhm.
So they created the fund, and each year we help them with their solicitation that they send out.
Mhm.
And there's also a handful of oil and gas landowners who automatically, through the oil and gas company, give back 1%.
Is that
That
South?
comes.
Someone was just telling me about maybe South Central Gas or one of the regional.
I'm not sure if it's Southwest. And I know that those gas companies change. Yeah.
I wrote it on my bulletin.
Oh.
Someone was just telling me about this earlier today.
Yeah, so it's an opportunity. That's one way that they're able to give back
Mhm.
to their community. So I'm glad that you got one in.
Yeah, well, Christina got one in.
Oh, okay. And community impact is our unrestricted fund.
Mhm.
So annually, normally in the fall, a solicitation will go out for that.
Mhm. And so what do you recall what some of the community needs were you were looking to fund last fall?
Well, their focus areas are substance abuse prevention and treatment, next generation leadership and mentoring, youth recreation and activities, and programs that enhance economic development and workforce development. And then ALICE. And I'm sorry,
I'm familiar with
Okay,
ALICE
good.
programs. I don't know what it
Okay.
stands for.
We just added ALICE this year. So
I went through an ALICE program when I was working at the court, and I was amazed at just the very practical things I never would have thought to do. And I was also really surprised because are you familiar with them?
I'm not.
So it's like
Is it with housing?
School shooter drills.
Okay.
And I worked for the courts. So courthouses are often a big target for serious violent acts. And so the ALICE training talks about how to respond in the event that there's an active shooter. And they tell you things to do to bar your doors or run or not run and what happens. And then they take you in the afternoon through a walkthrough with people who have walkie-talkies, and they're making the noises. And it is quite terrifying to sit in a room when there's someone outside and you hear a walkie-talkie going off over and over and you're just trying to sit and be quiet. And so the drill is for adults and for children to really sit still and be quiet during that. It is very difficult.
I tried to look at funds that you would
yes.
you would qualify for. The Women's Giving Circle, that would have been one if like you had programs for women and girls. So that would be one for you to look at for next year. And this is coming up. The River Valley Health Fund. And their priorities are health education and services for children, at-risk, elderly, indigent population, education for health care and nutrition. So this might be one that
So
the grant period's coming up, yes, in June.
So there's two regional initiatives I'm working with. One is a retirement center that's trying to get a van to increase access of people in the community. And then also the Barnesville Depot, which is looking at a historical train depot and how they can use it for the community and to serve community goods. And they have a food, fresh market, a food pantry that has been running out of there, but it's been outside. So it's not really like, you wouldn't think of a train station as being that, but it is a place that people have gathered regionally, and it's central to town. So it ends up checking a lot of the boxes to help with nutrition for across the age range. So I think that's really, yes, I'm going to be taking this with me and looking at these kind of health funds and looking through the foundation center. It makes me realize uses for some of the programs, so
absolutely.
It informs the process.
And you may have not had a particular program, but you've always been thinking about a particular program, and it may fall in the guidelines of some of these. And these are the ones that weren't as confining, like these 4. I think that there were 8, but several of them were down the river. So, unless you had something in Middleburn or the Tyler Wetzel area, there were specific grants for those particular areas.
Yeah.
So these are the ones that I thought.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Doing some of my work for me.
Yes.
And I love the price too.
Yes.
So when I started my career in social work, I thought I was going to be a special education teacher. And I was working at a family shelter that was sponsored by it was started by Mother of God Parish in the area to be a home for women who were leaving their husbands under duress.
Kind of what the YW does. Kind of like, I think the YW has.
Probably,
programs.
Yeah. So we were in Northern Kentucky, which I feel like is regionally similar to here. I lived in Cincinnati and I walked across a bridge and I was in Kentucky, and I walked to work, but I couldn't serve people from Cincinnati because we had Commonwealth funds from Kentucky, and they were trying not to serve the people in Ohio who had Ohio funds, and services can't cross the river. So it seems like, that this was in 2000 that I started working in that area, and it was a very big issue. They were closing Hope 6 programs. TANF things had just come into play to make that 36-month and 60-month thing. So, but it seems like here, there is work that's crossing over the overlapping counties that really serve this region.
Yes.
So this region seems to be West Virginia and Ohio, and also some Pennsylvania.
Like Weirton is like a neighbor of Pennsylvania, but we don't. Our service area doesn't include Pennsylvania, but it doesn't say that, like the donor advised funds, they can donate wherever they want.
Right.
Some individuals send stuff to Florida, send stuff to nonprofits. Actually, someone just called yesterday about actually funding downstate, so that not in our service area, but because it's a donor advised fund, they can choose what nonprofits that they want to give to. So, money doesn't just stay here from those donor advised funds. So, but it means a lot to those individuals to be able to help those organizations.
Yeah. I'm already getting more ideas for more grants I want to write. So I'm going to rein it in and say, I can't think of any other questions that I have for you.
Well,
other than wanting you to sit over my shoulder while I'm working all the time.
One thing that another thing that I thought I would just mention is that there are a lot of professional advisors who are constantly working with their clients. So that's a relationship that we try to maintain. Because that way, if we're getting the word out on what we are able to offer, we're able to help them to help their clients. So we've gotten several referrals from professional advisors on opening new funds.
Wonderful.
And from some attorneys, yes, some of the local attorneys. So, we try to maintain a relationship with them. Then as they have people that want to make donations, then they they think of us and help them to create funds.
So the very common problem of wealth management and endowment, who do I leave my endowment to? People don't need to wait until they're filling out pre-need to make those kinds of decisions.
No, they could start now.
Mm-hmm.
Like several of the funds, like my brother's fund, his children are involved in.
Mm-hmm.
So when my brother passes a long time from now, then his children will be able to continue enjoying the good of their mother.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have, my husband and I have plans to buy some property. And I said, why are we even buying at this point? We need to just set it up in a trust or an endowment and put it in everyone else's name, because anything I buy is going to go through probate court at some point, and I know who it's going to.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's Liz Paulus is talks to individuals if someone would like to think that they might like to create a fund.
Mm-hmm.
She's a wealth of information and would be happy to talk to people about that.
All right. What other community foundations do you know or work with or partner with that are in like the surrounding areas?
I specifically don't, but Susie Nelson is the executive director here,
Mm-hmm.
and she knows everyone, and she knows all of there's I'm not sure where all the community foundations are located in the state of West Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
I know that Parkersburg has one and Charleston has one, and Columbus has one, Cleveland has one. I mean, I'm sure that there's a lot more than that, but they're everywhere.
Yeah,
So
they are.
now that everyone knows what they do.
Now that everyone knows
yes,
what they do.
Yes.
Best kept secrets.
Yes. So I always just kind of like to say that if you have an extra, you could start with $5,000 or $10,000 and just kind of build from there.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
And sharing your information and your skills. And
you're welcome.
Your
I
excitement.
hope I can help you in the future with getting some of your funding.
Yeah. You're going to be sick of me.
I look forward to it.
All right. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Don't forget to subscribe.
Thank you. Do you think any of that was